You've read the books. You know your thoughts create reality. You hold the image of wealth in your mind, but your bank account remains unchanged. It feels like there's a broken wire, a missing connection between the mental world of thinking stuff and the physical world of cold, hard cash. What if there is? What if it's one specific law of transmission that almost everyone overlooks? The pain you carry is not the pain of ignorance, but something far more insidious. It is the pain of incomplete knowledge. You have done the mental work. You have sat in silence, visualizing abundance. You have held the image of prosperity with as much clarity as you can muster. You have followed the instructions of countless teachers who promise that thought creates reality. And yet, when you open your eyes and check your bank balance, nothing has changed. The frustration that follows is not merely disappointment, it is a corrosive doubt that eats away at your faith in the entire science of mind. You begin to wonder if this is all just elaborate fantasy, a beautiful philosophy that works in books but fails in the brutal arena of physical reality. The doubt whispers that perhaps you are not strong enough, not pure enough, not worthy enough to wield the creative power of thought. Many people believe that forming a mental image is the entire process. They think that if they can just see it clearly enough, hold it long enough, the universe will somehow respond. But Wallace D. Wattles, in his penetrating analysis of the creative process, revealed a truth that most miss entirely. The image in your mind is just a static blueprint. It is a design, a plan, a schematic, but it has no power to move the universe on its own. Think of an architect's drawing sitting on a desk. No matter how perfect, how detailed, how beautiful that blueprint might be, it will never become a building until someone takes action to construct it. Your mental image, no matter how vivid, is equally inert until it is energized by a specific motive power that transmits it into the formless substance, the intelligent, responsive energy that permeates all of reality and from which all physical forms emerge. The promise I offer you today is not another visualization technique or affirmation practice. The promise is precision. You will learn the exact law of transmitted thought that Wattles discovered, the mechanism by which a mental image transforms from a passive picture into an active command that reorganizes physical reality. You will understand the two specific components that create the motive power of thought. The energetic force that broadcasts your desire into the universal field with such clarity and intensity that the thinking stuff has no choice but to respond. This is not about thinking harder or visualizing longer. This is about learning to energize your mental images, to charge them with the specific frequency that turns passive blueprints into active commands that create physical wealth. This is the missing link between your mind and your money. What I'm about to share with you is the engine of the science of getting rich. It is the mechanism that Wallace D. Wattles placed at the very heart of his system, yet it is the component that most students skip over or misunderstand entirely. They rush to the visualization, to the gratitude, to the action, all of which are essential, but they never learn to generate the motive power that makes those elements effective. Without this power, your mental work is like a car with no fuel in the tank. It looks ready to drive, all the parts are in place, but when you turn the key, nothing happens. The engine of wealth creation is not thought alone. It is thought energized by two specific forces working in perfect harmony. These two forces are what transform your mental image from a wish into a command, from a hope into a certainty, from a dream into an inevitable physical manifestation. Here is the pact I make with you for this video. In the next several minutes, you will learn the precise nature of these two components that create the motive power of thought. You will discover the exact mental posture required not merely to express your desire for wealth, but to impress it upon the universe with such force that reality itself must rearrange to accommodate your vision. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. This is mechanics. The mechanics of how consciousness shapes matter, how the invisible becomes visible, how thought becomes cash. You will understand why most people's visualizations remain powerless, and you will learn the specific internal shift that transforms passive imagination into active creation. But I must warn you, there is a common mental state that people mistake for this motive power, a state that feels intense and real, but it actually transmits a signal of lack that repels wealth rather than attracts it. This is a critical error that keeps millions trapped in financial struggle, despite their mental efforts. And I will reveal this fatal mistake in part 4 of this video. Before we continue, I want you to pause and reflect on your own experience. Have you ever felt that your visualizations were powerless? Have you ever held a clear image of wealth in your mind, only to watch it dissolve into nothing when you return to your daily life? If this resonates with you, leave a comment below describing that experience. Share your frustration, your confusion, your doubt, because what you're about to learn will transform that powerlessness into precision, that confusion into clarity, that doubt into unshakable certainty. Now let us begin with the foundation, the distinction that changes everything. The central concept that Wallace D. Wattles brings to light is a distinction so subtle, yet so profound, that missing it means missing the entire science of wealth creation. It is this: it is not thought alone that creates, it is thought impressed upon formless substance that creates. These are not the same thing. Most people believe that if they think about wealth, if they visualize abundance, if they hold positive images in their mind, they are engaging in the creative process. But Wattles reveals that such thinking, if it remains isolated within your own consciousness, is merely mental activity. It is an event happening in your brain, a neural pattern firing in your skull. But it has no more power to create physical wealth than a song hummed in a soundproof room has the power to be heard by an audience. The thought must leave you. It must be transmitted outward. It must make contact with and create an impression upon the formless substance, the intelligent energy that is the raw material of all physical reality. What is this formless substance? Wattles describes it as the original, undifferentiated consciousness that permeates all space, that exists in and through all things, that is capable of taking any form and expressing any quality. It is not dead matter waiting to be shaped by external forces. It is living intelligence, responsive and creative, always seeking greater expression, always moving toward the fullness of life. This substance is not separate from you. It is the very essence of what you are, the ground of your being, the field in which your consciousness exists. But here is the crucial point. This intelligent substance can only create what it receives as a clear, definite thought form. It is like an infinitely skilled craftsman who can build anything, but who requires a specific blueprint to work from. Without a definite pattern impressed upon it, the formless substance continues in its current patterns of manifestation. It does not read your vague wishes or interpret your confused desires. It responds only to clear, energized thought forms that are transmitted to it with sufficient power to create an impression. Think deeply about what this means. Your casual daydreams about wealth, your fleeting wishes for a better life, your moments of hopeful imagination, these are not creating anything because they are not being transmitted with enough force to impress themselves upon the formless substance. They are like whispers in a hurricane, too weak to be heard above the noise of your habitual thought patterns and the collective consciousness of limitation that surrounds you. The substance is always there, always ready, always willing to create, but it requires a signal strong enough to register, clear enough to follow, sustained enough to complete the formation process. Without this transmission of sufficient power, your thought remains trapped in your own mind, an isolated event that affects nothing beyond your momentary mood. This is why so many people fail despite their mental efforts. They are thinking, but they are not transmitting. They are generating blueprints, but they are not broadcasting them to the builder. Wattles understood that the universe operates on principles as precise as those governing electricity or gravity. When you flip a light switch, you are not hoping the light will come on. You know it will because you understand the principle of electrical circuits. The power is always flowing through the wires. The switch simply completes the circuit and allows that power to manifest as light. In the same way, the creative power of the formless substance is always present, always flowing, always ready to manifest. Your role is not to create this power, you cannot, but to complete the circuit through which it flows. That circuit is completed by thought that has been given motive power. thought that has been energized to the point where it can bridge the gap between the mental and the physical, between the invisible and the visible, between potential and actuality. Most people spend their lives standing in front of the switch, wishing for light, praying for light, visualizing light, but never actually flipping the switch because they don't understand the mechanism. The mechanism is this. The formless substance, being intelligent, thinks. Its thoughts become forms. When you impress a thought upon this substance with sufficient clarity and power, you are literally causing the substance to think your thought. And when the substance thinks a thought, that thought must manifest as physical form. It is the nature of the substance to do so. This is not magic or mysticism. It is the fundamental operating principle of reality. Consciousness creates form. Your individual consciousness, when properly aligned and energized, can direct the universal consciousness to create specific forms in your life. But the key word is impress. You must make an impression, a mark, a pattern in the substance. A thought that merely floats through your mind makes no impression. It is like writing on water. The moment you finish, the water returns to its original state. To create lasting change, you must write on stone, and writing on stone requires force, pressure, sustained intention. Consider the difference between a casual conversation and a command given by a general to his troops. In a casual conversation, words are exchanged, ideas are shared, but nothing necessarily changes. The words dissipate into the air, and life continues as before. But when a general issues a command, something fundamentally different happens. The words carry authority, they carry intention, they carry the expectation of action. The soldiers do not debate whether to obey. They move immediately to execute the command because they recognize the power behind the words. Your relationship with the formless substance must be like the general and his troops, not like casual conversation. You are not suggesting to the universe that wealth might be nice. You are not proposing that perhaps abundance could be considered. You are impressing upon the intelligent substance a definite pattern that you expect, that you know, will be manifested in physical form. This is the shift from passive thinking to active creation. But how do you generate this force of impression? How do you take a mental image and charge it with enough power to penetrate the formless substance and create a lasting pattern? This is where most teachings fail. They tell you to visualize, but they don't tell you how to energize the visualization. They tell you to think positive thoughts, but they don't explain how to give those thoughts the motive power that makes them creative. Wattles did not leave you in this state of confusion. He identified the exact components of motive power, the specific energies that must be combined to transform passive thought into active command. These components are not mysterious or difficult to understand, but they do require a fundamental shift in how you approach the entire process of mental creation. You must stop thinking of yourself as someone who is trying to get something from the universe and start understanding yourself as someone who is directing the creative process through the proper application of mental law. The formless substance wants to create. This is crucial to understand. It is not reluctant or resistant. It is not judging whether you are worthy or testing whether you deserve wealth. The substance has no such concerns. It is pure creative potential, always seeking expression, always moving toward greater manifestation, always ready to take form according to the patterns impressed upon it. The only question is whether you are providing a clear pattern and sufficient power for that pattern to be received. When you understand this, when you truly grasp that the universe is not withholding anything from you but is simply waiting for clear instructions delivered with adequate force, your entire approach to wealth creation changes. You stop begging and start commanding. You stop hoping and start knowing. You stop wishing and start impressing. And in that shift lies the difference between poverty and prosperity, between struggle and success, between a life of limitation and a life of abundance. The image in your mind, then, is not the end of the creative process. It is the beginning. It is the pattern, the blueprint, the design. But a design sitting in your consciousness has no more power to create physical wealth than a seed sitting in a drawer has the power to become a tree. The seed must be planted in soil, watered, exposed to sunlight. It must be given the conditions necessary for growth. Your mental image must likewise be planted in the formless substance through the act of impression, and it must be energized by the specific forces that cause the substance to accept the pattern and begin the process of manifestation. These forces are not external to you. You do not need to acquire them or earn them. They are capacities of your own consciousness, powers that you already possess but have never been taught to use correctly. What you need is not more power, but more precision in the application of the power you already have. This is the foundation upon which everything else rests. If you do not understand that thought alone is insufficient, that the image must be impressed upon the formless substance with motive power, then all the techniques and practices that follow will be empty rituals. You will be going through the motions without understanding the mechanism. You will be trying to drive a car without knowing that you need to put fuel in the tank. But once you grasp this foundational principle, once you understand that your role is to transmit thought with sufficient power to create an impression in the universal creative medium, then everything changes. You are no longer a passive dreamer hoping the universe will notice you. You are an active creator, consciously and deliberately using the laws of mental causation to shape your physical reality. You are learning to speak the language that the universe understands, to operate the controls that direct the flow of creative power, to flip the switch that turns the invisible into the visible. And that is the beginning of true wealth. To understand the mechanism of transmission more clearly, let us employ a precise analogy that will illuminate the process and reveal why so many attempts at mental creation fail. Your clear mental image of wealth is like a song you have chosen to play, a beautiful, perfect composition that represents the life you wish to live, the abundance you wish to experience, the freedom you wish to possess. This song exists in your mind with perfect clarity. You can hear every note, feel every rhythm, sense every harmony. It is complete. It is beautiful. It is exactly what you want. Now the formless substance, the intelligent, responsive energy that permeates all reality, is like a radio receiver in every home, in every business, in every corner of the physical world. These receivers are always on, always listening, always ready to pick up a signal and translate it into sound, into form, into physical manifestation. The potential for your wealth to appear is already present everywhere. The substance is already primed to create it. The receivers are already tuned to the frequency of abundance. But here is the critical point that most people miss. The song in the studio is useless without a powerful transmission tower to broadcast the signal. You can have the most perfect song ever composed, the most beautiful melody ever conceived, but if it remains only in the studio, only in your mind, then the receivers out in the world will never pick it up. They will continue playing whatever signals they are currently receiving, whatever patterns of thought are being broadcast, with sufficient power to reach them. Most people's mental images of wealth are like songs that never leave the studio. They are perfect in conception but powerless in transmission. The person sits in their room, playing the song in their mind, wondering why the world isn't dancing to it, not realizing that the world cannot hear it because it was never broadcast. The image remains trapped in individual consciousness, never making contact with the universal creative medium that could translate it into physical form. Your job, then, is not just to compose the song, not just to create a clear mental image of the wealth you desire. That is the first step, and it is essential, but it is only the beginning. Your real work is to build and operate the transmission tower that broadcasts that image, with enough power to reach the formless substance and create a lasting impression. This transmission tower is what Wattles calls the motive power of thought. It is the energetic force that propels your mental image out of your individual consciousness and into the universal field where it can be received, processed, and manifested. Without this motive power, your thought has no range, no reach, no impact beyond your own subjective experience. With this motive power, your thought becomes a signal that can be picked up across the entire field of the formless substance, triggering the creative process that must result in physical manifestation. Think about what happens when a radio station broadcasts a signal. The station doesn't just play the music in the studio and hope that somehow, mysteriously, people will hear it. The music is fed into a transmitter that converts the sound waves into electromagnetic waves, amplifies them to tremendous power, and sends them radiating outward in all directions at the speed of light. These waves travel through the air, through walls, through space itself, until they encounter a receiver tuned to the same frequency. The receiver captures the signal, converts it back into sound waves, and the music plays. The entire process is mechanical, predictable, governed by precise laws of physics. If the transmitter is powerful enough and the receiver is properly tuned, the transmission always succeeds. There is no uncertainty, no luck, no mystery. The same principle applies to the transmission of thought. When your mental image is fed into the transmitter of motive power, amplified by the specific energies that we will soon identify, and broadcast into the formless substance, it must be received and manifested, not because the universe is being kind to you, but because this is how the system works. But what happens when the transmitter is weak or turned off entirely? What happens when you have a clear mental image but no motive power to broadcast it? The result is exactly what you have been experiencing. Nothing. The image remains in your mind, vivid and beautiful, but the world around you does not change because the world has not received the signal. The formless substance, despite being infinitely powerful and perfectly willing to create your wealth, cannot respond to a signal it never receives. This is not a failure of the universe. This is not evidence that the law doesn't work. This is simply a failure to complete the circuit, a failure to turn on the transmitter, a failure to understand that thought without motive power is like electricity without a circuit. All potential, no manifestation. The power is there. The capacity is there. The willingness of the universe to create is there. What is missing is the transmission mechanism that connects your individual consciousness to the universal creative medium. Now, let us go deeper into this analogy to understand the nature of the signal itself. Not all radio signals are equal. A weak signal produces static, interference, unclear reception. The music might be barely audible, mixed with noise, cutting in and out. A listener trying to tune into such a signal would become frustrated, unable to enjoy the music, perhaps giving up and switching to a different station. This is what happens when people attempt to create wealth with weak, inconsistent, doubt-filled thought. They are broadcasting, but the signal is so corrupted by fear, so weakened by uncertainty, so interrupted by contradictory thoughts that the formless substance receives only static. The pattern is unclear. The instruction is garbled. The creative process cannot complete because the blueprint keeps changing, the signal keeps fading, the transmission keeps cutting out. The result is sporadic, unpredictable manifestations. A little money comes, then it goes. An opportunity appears, then it vanishes. Progress is made, then it's lost. This is not the fault of the law. This is the natural result of an inconsistent, low-power transmission. Contrast this with a strong, clear, consistent signal. When a radio station broadcasts with full power, with clean equipment, with no interference, the music comes through perfectly. Every note is crisp, every word is clear, every harmony is distinct. Listeners across the entire broadcast range receive the same perfect signal and hear the same beautiful music. This is what happens when you transmit your mental image of wealth with full motive power, with the specific energies properly combined, with unwavering consistency. The formless substance receives a clear, definite, powerful pattern. There is no ambiguity about what you want. There is no weakness in the signal that allows competing patterns to interfere. There is no interruption that causes the creative process to stop and start. The substance responds with the same perfection with which it received the signal, and wealth begins to manifest in your life with a certainty and inevitability that seems miraculous to those who don't understand the mechanism. The question, then, is not whether the law works. It always works, just as the laws of radio transmission always work. The question is whether you are operating the transmitter correctly. Are you generating sufficient power? Are you maintaining a consistent signal? Are you broadcasting on the right frequency? These are not metaphysical mysteries. These are practical questions with specific answers. Wattles identified the exact components that generate the motive power of thought. the precise energies that must be combined to create a transmission strong enough and clear enough to impress your desire upon the formless substance. These components are not difficult to understand, but they do require a shift in your mental approach. You must stop thinking of visualization as a passive activity, sitting quietly, imagining wealth, hoping something will happen, and start understanding it as an active transmission, deliberately generating and directing creative power toward a specific outcome. The transmission tower of motive power is built from two primary components, two energies that must work together in perfect harmony. Separately, they are insufficient. Together, they create an irresistible force that commands the attention and response of the formless substance. One without the other is like a transmitter with power, but no antenna, or an antenna with no power. The system is incomplete and cannot function. But when both are present, when both are properly developed and unified in your consciousness, you become a broadcasting station of such clarity and power that your mental images must manifest as physical reality. This is not wishful thinking. This is not positive affirmation. This is the deliberate, conscious application of mental law to create specific physical results, and it works with the same reliability as any other law of nature, once you understand and apply it correctly. So let us be absolutely clear about what we are discussing. We are not talking about the power of positive thinking in some vague, feel-good sense. We are not suggesting that if you just believe hard enough, the universe will magically give you what you want. We are describing a precise mechanism by which consciousness shapes matter, by which thought creates form, by which the invisible becomes visible. This mechanism requires you to do three things. First, create a clear, definite mental image of the wealth you desire. This is your song, your pattern, your blueprint. Second, generate the motive power that will transmit this image into the formless substance. This is your transmission tower, your broadcast signal. Third, maintain that transmission with consistency and clarity until the manifestation is complete. This is your discipline, your faith in the process, your commitment to operating the law correctly. When all three elements are present, wealth is not a hope or a possibility. It is an inevitability, as certain as the sunrise, as reliable as gravity, as predictable as any other natural law. The broken circuit you have been experiencing, the gap between your thoughts and your cash, exists only because you have been trying to operate the system with incomplete understanding. You have been creating the song, but never broadcasting it. You have been designing the blueprint, but never impressing it upon the creative medium. You have been standing in front of the switch, wishing for light without ever flipping it. But now, you are about to learn the exact nature of the switch, the precise components of the motive power that turns thought into transmission, imagination into impression, mental image into physical wealth. And once you understand this mechanism, once you learn to operate it consciously and deliberately, the gap will close, the circuit will complete, the transmission will begin, and the wealth you have been imagining will start to manifest in your physical reality with a speed and certainty that will astonish you. This is the promise of the science. This is the power of transmitted thought, and this is what you are about to master. The state of consciousness required for effective transmission is not what most people imagine. When individuals think about creating wealth, they typically approach the process with a sense of neediness, of lack, of desperation to acquire something they do not currently possess. This is the most natural response in the world. After all, if you already had the wealth, why would you be trying to create it? But this natural response is precisely the problem. When you approach the creative process from a state of need, you are broadcasting a signal of absence, not presence. You are transmitting the message, "I don't have this," rather than, "I am creating this." The formless substance, being responsive to the nature of the thought impressed upon it, responds to the signal it receives. And if the signal is one of lack, the substance can only create more lack. This is why so many people find that their efforts to create wealth actually seem to push wealth further away. They are unknowingly transmitting the very condition they are trying to escape. The mental state that Wattles teaches is radically different. It is not the state of someone trying to get something. It is the state of someone who is calmly, confidently directing a process that they know will succeed. Think of the CEO of a vast corporation sitting in their office, giving clear instructions to their team. The CEO does not beg. The CEO does not hope. The CEO does not anxiously wonder if the team will follow through. The CEO simply states what needs to be done, knowing that they have an infinitely competent team that will execute the directive with precision and efficiency. There is no doubt in the CEO's mind about whether the task will be completed. There is only clarity about what the task is and confidence that it will be done. This is the exact mental posture you must adopt when impressing your desire for wealth upon the formless substance. You are not a beggar pleading with an indifferent universe. You are a director, giving clear commands to an infinitely capable creative intelligence that is waiting for your instructions. This shift in mental posture is not merely psychological, it is energetic. The frequency of neediness and the frequency of calm certainty are completely different. Neediness vibrates with anxiety, with fear, with the desperate energy of someone who believes they might not get what they want. This creates a chaotic, unstable signal that cannot create a clear impression on the formless substance. Calm certainty, by contrast, vibrates with stability, with confidence, with the assured energy of someone who knows the outcome is inevitable. This creates a coherent, powerful signal that penetrates the substance and creates a lasting pattern. The difference between these two states is the difference between static and clarity, between noise and music, between a transmission that fails and a transmission that succeeds. You cannot create wealth from a state of desperation any more than you can create a beautiful painting with trembling, anxious hands. The creative process requires steadiness, confidence, precision. But how do you cultivate this state of calm certainty when your current circumstances are screaming lack at you? How do you maintain the mental posture of a confident CEO when your bank account is empty and your bills are overdue? This is where most people stumble. They understand intellectually that they should feel confident, but emotionally they are drowning in fear and doubt. The key is to understand that you are not trying to feel confident about your current circumstances. You are feeling confident about the law itself. You are not claiming that you currently have wealth. You are claiming that you are currently in the process of creating wealth through the application of a precise mental law. The CEO is not confident because the task is already done. The CEO is confident because they know the team is competent and the process is reliable. In the same way, you are not confident because the wealth has already manifested. You are confident because you know the law works and you are applying it correctly. This distinction is crucial. You are not engaging in positive thinking or self-deception. You are not pretending that your current situation is different than it is. You are simply recognizing that your current situation is the result of past thought patterns, and that new thought patterns, properly energized and transmitted, will create new circumstances. The lag between cause and effect does not negate the certainty of the effect. It simply requires patience and faith in the process. When you plant a seed, you do not see the tree immediately, but you know the tree is coming because you understand the law of growth. When you impress a thought of wealth upon the formless substance, you do not see the money immediately, but you know the money is coming because you understand the law of mental causation. Your confidence is not based on what you see, it is based on what you know. And what you know is that the law is as reliable as gravity, as certain as mathematics, as inevitable as sunrise. The mental state of calm certainty also requires that you release all sense of competition or taking from others. Many people approach wealth creation with the unconscious belief that money is scarce, that for them to have more, someone else must have less, that wealth is a zero-sum game where winners and losers are determined by who can grab the most from the limited supply. This competitive mindset is another form of lack consciousness. It assumes that there is not enough, that you must fight for your share, that you must take from others to have for yourself. But Wattles teaches that the formless substance is infinite, that wealth is not taken from a limited supply, but created from an unlimited source, that your enrichment does not require anyone else's impoverishment. When you understand this, when you truly grasp that you are not competing with anyone but simply drawing from the infinite abundance of the universe, your entire energy shifts. You stop broadcasting the signal of scarcity and competition, and you start broadcasting the signal of creative expansion. This creative mindset recognizes that every person who becomes wealthy through the proper application of mental law actually adds to the total wealth of the world. They are not taking a bigger slice of a fixed pie, they are making the pie bigger. They are bringing new value into existence, creating new products, new services, new solutions that benefit everyone. This is the mindset of increase, the consciousness of expansion, the understanding that the universe is not a closed system with limited resources, but an open system with infinite creative potential. When you approach wealth creation from this perspective, you are no longer sending out the anxious, grasping energy of someone trying to take something from someone else. You are sending out the calm, confident energy of someone who is creating something new, something that did not exist before, something that will benefit both you and everyone you interact with. This is the signal that the formless substance responds to with enthusiasm and power. The CEO analogy extends even further. A CEO does not micromanage every detail of how the team will accomplish the task. The CEO does not need to know exactly which person will do which job, which resources will be used, which methods will be employed. The CEO simply states the desired outcome and trusts that the team has the intelligence and capability to figure out the details. In the same way, you do not need to know how your wealth will manifest. You do not need to plot every step, control every variable, or figure out the entire path from where you are to where you want to be. Your job is to impress the clear pattern of your desired outcome upon the formless substance, and then trust that the infinite intelligence of the universe will arrange circumstances, orchestrate events, and bring opportunities that lead to the manifestation of your desire. Trying to control the how is actually a form of doubt. It suggests that you don't trust the process, that you believe you must do everything yourself, that the universe needs your help to figure out how to create your wealth. This state of calm certainty is not passive or lazy. It is not sitting back and waiting for money to fall from the sky. It is the mental foundation from which all effective action proceeds. When you are in this state, you are alert to opportunities, receptive to inspiration, ready to act when the universe presents you with the next step. But your action is not frantic or desperate. It is purposeful and efficient, guided by the same confidence that underlies your mental work. You act like someone who knows where they are going, not like someone who is lost and trying everything in hopes that something will work. Your actions are aligned with your mental state, and both are aligned with the law of creation. This alignment is what creates the coherent, powerful transmission that the formless substance must respond to. When your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions are all broadcasting the same signal of calm certainty, the universe has no choice but to manifest the pattern you are impressing upon it. So the first requirement for effective transmission is to shift from the consciousness of trying to get to the consciousness of confidently directing. You are not a supplicant begging for favors. You are not a gambler hoping for luck. You are not a victim waiting to be rescued. You are a conscious creator, deliberately applying a natural law to produce a specific result. You understand that the formless substance is not a separate entity that might or might not grant your wishes. It is the very medium in which you exist, the intelligent energy that responds to the patterns you impress upon it, the creative force that has no agenda of its own, but simply manifests whatever is held in consciousness with sufficient clarity and power. When you approach the process from this understanding, when you adopt the mental posture of calm, confident direction rather than anxious, desperate need, you have taken the first essential step toward generating the motive power that transforms thought into wealth. You have tuned your consciousness to the frequency of creation rather than the frequency of lack. And that shift in frequency is the beginning of your transformation. Now we arrive at the core mechanism itself, the two components that, when united, create the irresistible motive power that transmits your mental image into the formless substance with the force necessary to command manifestation. These are not vague spiritual concepts or abstract philosophical ideas. These are specific energies, specific states of consciousness, specific forces that you must learn to generate and combine. The first component is faith, but not faith as it is commonly understood. The second component is purpose, but not purpose as it is commonly practiced. Together, these two forces create a transmission of such clarity and power that the formless substance has no option but to receive your pattern and begin the process of translating it into physical form. Let us examine each component with the precision it deserves, for your mastery of these two energies will determine whether you spend your life wishing for wealth or commanding its creation. Faith in the context of transmitted thought is not hope. This distinction is absolutely critical, yet it is the point where most people fail. Hope is a wonderful emotion, but it is fundamentally weak as a creative force because hope admits the possibility of failure. When you hope for something, you are saying, "I want this to happen, but it might not." Hope looks to the future with desire, but also with doubt. Hope is the consciousness of someone who is waiting to see what will happen, someone who has not yet decided that the outcome is certain. And because hope contains within it the seed of doubt, it creates a mixed signal, part confidence, part fear, part expectation, part uncertainty. This mixed signal cannot create a clear impression on the formless substance. It is like trying to broadcast two different songs on the same frequency at the same time. The result is interference, static, confusion. The substance does not know which pattern to follow, so it follows neither and nothing manifests. Faith, by contrast, is the calm, unshakable conviction that your mental image is a spiritual reality that is currently in the process of becoming a physical reality. Faith does not hope that something will happen. Faith knows that it is happening. Faith does not wait to see if the law will work. Faith knows the law is working. Faith is not concerned with evidence from the physical world because faith understands that the physical world is always a reflection of past thought, not present thought. What you see around you now is the manifestation of the mental patterns you held days, weeks, or months ago. What you are impressing upon the formless substance now is creating the physical reality you will experience days, weeks, or months from now. Faith bridges this gap between cause and effect. Faith is the mental acceptance of your wealth before you see it, the inner knowing that what you have claimed in consciousness must appear in form, the unshakable certainty that the law is operating even when the evidence is not yet visible. Think of faith as the carrier wave in a radio transmission. In radio broadcasting, the carrier wave is a stable, continuous signal that carries the information, the music, the voice, the data, from the transmitter to the receiver. Without a stable carrier wave, no information can be transmitted. The carrier wave must be constant, unwavering, consistent. If the carrier wave fluctuates or disappears, the transmission fails. In the same way, faith is the stable, unwavering carrier wave that carries your mental image from your individual consciousness to the universal formless substance. Your image is the information, but faith is what carries it. If your faith is weak or inconsistent, if it appears one day and disappears the next, if it is strong in the morning but crumbles by evening, then your transmission is interrupted. The pattern you are trying to impress upon the substance keeps fading in and out, and the creative process cannot complete. But when your faith is stable, when it remains constant regardless of circumstances, when it persists through all appearances of delay or difficulty, then your transmission is continuous and powerful, and manifestation becomes inevitable. How do you develop this kind of faith? You develop it by understanding the nature of the law you are working with. You do not need faith in your own worthiness. The law does not care about worthiness. You do not need faith in your own power. The power is in the law, not in you. You need faith in the law itself, faith that the formless substance is intelligent and responsive, faith that thought impressed upon substance must create form, faith that the universe operates according to precise principles that work the same way every time they are properly applied. This is not blind faith. This is rational faith, based on understanding. When you understand that the same creative principle that formed your body from a single cell, that grows trees from seeds, that organizes galaxies and atoms, when you understand that this same principle is at work in your mental creation of wealth, then faith becomes natural. You are not trying to believe something impossible. You are simply recognizing a law of nature and trusting that it will operate as it always has. Faith also requires that you make a mental commitment to your desired outcome. You cannot hold your mental image tentatively, as if you might change your mind later. You cannot approach the creative process with one foot in and one foot out, ready to abandon your vision if it doesn't manifest quickly enough. The moment you waver, the moment you begin to doubt, the moment you start to consider that maybe it won't work, in that moment, your transmission cuts out. The carrier wave fails. The impression you were making on the formless substance begins to fade. This is why so many people experience initial progress followed by collapse. They start with strong faith, they see some early signs of manifestation, but then they encounter a setback or a delay, and their faith crumbles. The transmission stops, the creative process halts, and they conclude that the law doesn't work, when in reality, they simply stopped working the law. Faith must be maintained from the moment you form your mental image until the moment the manifestation is complete, without interruption, without wavering, without doubt. This is not as difficult as it sounds once you understand that faith is not about feeling certain all the time. It is about choosing certainty, regardless of what you feel. Feelings fluctuate, emotions rise and fall, circumstances change, but faith is a decision, a commitment, a mental stance that you consciously maintain. When doubt arises, and it will arise, you do not fight it or suppress it. You simply recognize it as a habitual thought pattern from your old consciousness of lack, and you gently return to your faith. You remind yourself that you are working with a law, that the law is operating, that the manifestation is in process. You do this as many times as necessary, day after day, until the new pattern of faith becomes stronger than the old pattern of doubt. This is mental discipline, and it is the price of mastery. No one can do this work for you. No external circumstance can give you faith. It is something you must generate within yourself through understanding and commitment. If faith is the carrier wave of your transmission, then purpose is the engine that drives it. Purpose is the focused will, the steady intention, the unwavering determination to have and to use the wealth you are creating. This is not the same as desire. Desire is an emotion, often tinged with anxiety and need. Purpose is a decision, calm and resolute. Desire says, I want this. Purpose says, I will have this. Desire is passive, waiting for something to happen. Purpose is active, making something happen. Desire can exist without commitment. You can desire many things that you never actually pursue. But purpose is commitment itself. When you have true purpose, you have decided that this outcome is non-negotiable, that you will persist until it manifests, that you will not be deterred by obstacles or discouraged by delays. Purpose is the force that keeps your transmission broadcasting even when everything in your external world suggests that it's not working. Purpose must be connected to a reason, a why, that goes beyond mere acquisition. Wattles taught that the most powerful purpose is the desire for increase, the desire to live more fully, to do more good, to be more of what you are capable of becoming. When your purpose is rooted in this desire for increase, it aligns with the fundamental movement of the universe itself, which is always toward greater expression, greater complexity, greater life. The formless substance is not neutral about your desires. It is biased toward life, toward growth, toward expansion. When your purpose is to have wealth so that you can live more, contribute more, experience more, create more, when your purpose is aligned with the principle of increase, then the universe responds with enthusiasm. Your transmission is not just clear and powerful, it is also harmonious with the creative intention of the substance itself. This creates a resonance, an amplification, that makes your manifestation not just possible, but inevitable. Contrast this with a purpose that is rooted in competition, in taking from others, in accumulating wealth for the sake of hoarding, or for the purpose of feeling superior to those who have less. Such a purpose is out of alignment with the principle of increase. It is based on the false belief that wealth is scarce, that your gain must be someone else's loss. This creates a dissonant signal, one that the formless substance cannot fully respond to because it contradicts the fundamental nature of the creative process. This does not mean that people with selfish purposes cannot become wealthy. They can, and many do. But their wealth is always precarious, always requiring struggle to maintain, always accompanied by fear of loss. True wealth, the kind that flows naturally and abundantly, the kind that brings joy and freedom rather than anxiety and burden, comes only when purpose is aligned with increase, when the desire for wealth is also a desire to contribute to the greater good, to add value to the world, to participate in the universal movement toward more life. Purpose also provides direction to your faith. Faith without purpose is like a powerful engine with no steering wheel. It has force, but no direction. You might have absolute certainty that the law works, but if you don't have a clear, focused intention about what you want to create, then your transmission is diffuse, scattered, weak. Purpose gives your faith a target. It focuses all that unwavering certainty on a specific outcome. When faith and purpose are united, you have both the stable carrier wave and the directional force. You have both the certainty that creation is happening and the clear intention about what is being created. This combination is irresistible. The formless substance receives a signal that is both powerful and precise, both stable and focused, both certain and directed. There is no ambiguity about what you want, no weakness in your conviction that you will have it, no confusion about why you want it. The pattern is crystal clear, and the creative process proceeds with perfect efficiency. Developing purpose requires that you become absolutely clear about what you want and why you want it. This is not a 5-minute exercise. This is deep, sustained reflection. You must examine your desires honestly. Are you seeking wealth because you genuinely want to expand your life and contribute more to the world? Or are you seeking it to prove something, to impress others, to fill a void of unworthiness? The universe does not judge these motivations, but it does respond to them differently. A purpose rooted in increase creates a clear, powerful signal. A purpose rooted in compensation for feelings of inadequacy creates a mixed, weak signal. So you must do the inner work to clarify your purpose, to connect your desire for wealth to a genuine desire for more life, more contribution, more expression of your potential. When you have done this work, when your purpose is clear and aligned with increase, you will feel a shift in your energy. You will no longer feel desperate or anxious about wealth. You will feel calm, focused, determined, like someone who has made a decision and is now simply carrying it out. The synthesis of faith and purpose creates what might be called the consciousness of ownership. This is the state in which you have mentally accepted that the wealth you desire is already yours in spiritual reality, and you are simply waiting for the physical manifestation to catch up with the spiritual fact. You do not feel like someone trying to get something. You feel like someone who already has it and is simply waiting for delivery. This is not self-deception. This is alignment with the truth of how creation works. In the realm of cause, in the dimension of the formless substance, your wealth exists the moment you impress it with faith and purpose. The physical manifestation is simply the effect, the downstream consequence, the inevitable result of the cause you have set in motion. When you understand this, when you truly grasp that the creative work is done in consciousness, and the physical manifestation is just the final stage of a process that is already complete in the invisible realm, then you can relax into a state of calm expectancy. You are not straining or struggling. You are simply waiting with confidence for what you know is coming. When faith and purpose are united in your consciousness, when you hold your mental image with the unwavering certainty that it is real and the steady determination to possess it for a life of increase, you are no longer merely thinking about wealth. You are transmitting an irresistible command to the formless substance. The command is irresistible not because you are forcing anything, but because you are operating the law correctly. You have created a signal that the substance must respond to, because that is its nature. You have impressed a pattern that must manifest, because that is how the creative process works. You have completed the circuit, turned on the transmitter, and begun broadcasting with full power. The receivers throughout the physical world, the people, the circumstances, the opportunities, are now picking up your signal and responding to it. Money begins to flow toward you. Opportunities begin to appear. Resources begin to align. And all of this happens not through struggle or manipulation, but through the natural operation of mental law correctly applied. This is the mechanism that Wallace D. Wattles discovered and taught. This is the missing link between thought and cash. This is the motive power that transforms passive imagination into active creation. Faith and purpose united in consciousness, focused on a clear mental image, maintained with unwavering consistency. This is the formula for wealth. It is simple, but it is not easy because it requires you to maintain a state of consciousness that contradicts everything your physical senses are telling you. It requires you to believe in what you cannot see, to trust in what you have not yet experienced, to persist when every external indicator suggests that you should give up. But this is the price of mastery. This is what separates those who create wealth from those who merely wish for it, and this is what you must now learn to do if you are serious about transforming your financial reality. The power is in your hands. The law is at your disposal. The only question is whether you will apply it with the precision and persistence required to succeed. Now we must address the fatal mistakes that prevent most people from successfully transmitting their desires into the formless substance, even when they understand the principle intellectually. These are not small errors or minor oversights. These are fundamental misunderstandings that corrupt the entire transmission, that turn what should be a clear, powerful signal into static and confusion. If you make these mistakes, it does not matter how clearly you visualize or how long you practice. Your efforts will fail because you are operating the mechanism incorrectly. But if you understand these pitfalls and learn to avoid them, you will have an enormous advantage over the vast majority of people who are struggling with the same teachings. Let us examine each mistake with brutal honesty, for only by recognizing these errors can you hope to transcend them. This is the most common and most devastating error, and it is the hook I promise to reveal. Raw, anxious desire is the state of wanting. It is the emotional experience of lacking something and wishing you had it. Desire is characterized by a feeling of incompleteness, a sense that you are not whole without the thing you desire, a gnawing hunger that creates tension and anxiety in your consciousness. When you are in a state of desire, you are constantly aware of the absence of what you want. Your attention is focused on the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Your emotions are tinged with fear, fear that you might not get it, fear that it might take too long, fear that you might not deserve it. This is a very powerful emotional state, and it feels like it should be effective in creating wealth because the feeling is so intense. But intensity is not the same as power, and in fact, intense desire is a powerful broadcast signal of not having. Think about what desire actually communicates to the formless substance. When you are in a state of wanting, you are impressing upon the substance the pattern of lack. You are saying, through the frequency of your consciousness, I don't have this, I need this, I am incomplete without this. And the substance, being responsive to the patterns impressed upon it, can only create more of what you are broadcasting. If you are broadcasting lack, you will create more lack. If you are broadcasting neediness, you will create more situations that make you feel needy. This is not because the universe is punishing you or testing you. This is simply the mechanical operation of the law. The substance does not interpret your desires or try to figure out what you really mean. It simply responds to the signal it receives. And when the signal is one of wanting, the response must be more wanting. Purpose, by contrast, is something entirely different. Purpose is not the feeling of wanting. It is the calm, steady will to possess. It is not emotional, it is volitional. It is not about feeling incomplete without something. It is about deciding to have something for a specific reason. Purpose does not focus on the absence of what you want. It focuses on the presence of what you are creating. Purpose does not carry the anxious energy of need. It carries the confident energy of intention. When you have true purpose, you are not sitting around feeling desperate for wealth. You are calmly, steadily, persistently impressing the pattern of wealth upon the formless substance, knowing that the manifestation is inevitable because you are operating the law correctly. This is the signal of ownership, not the signal of lack. This is the transmission of someone who has already claimed their wealth in consciousness and is simply waiting for the physical manifestation to reflect that inner reality. The shift from desire to purpose is subtle but profound. It is the shift from, "I want this because I don't have it," to "I will have this because I have decided to create it." It is the shift from emotional neediness to volitional certainty. It is the shift from focusing on absence to focusing on presence. And this shift changes everything about the signal you are transmitting. When you operate from purpose rather than desire, you are no longer broadcasting lack. You are broadcasting creative intention. You are no longer impressing the pattern of not having upon the substance. You are impressing the pattern of creating, and the substance responds accordingly. Instead of manifesting more lack, it begins to manifest the wealth you are claiming. This is not a small distinction. This is the difference between success and failure, between wealth and poverty, between a life of struggle and a life of abundance. How do you make this shift? You make it by recognizing that desire is an emotion that arises from your current circumstances, while purpose is a decision that creates new circumstances. You do not try to suppress desire. That would only create inner conflict. You simply recognize desire for what it is, a signal that you are focusing on what you don't have, and you consciously redirect your attention to what you are creating. Instead of dwelling on the feeling of wanting, you cultivate the feeling of having. Instead of imagining how good it will feel when the wealth arrives, you imagine that the wealth has already arrived in spiritual reality and is now in the process of manifesting physically. Instead of hoping and wishing, you claim and possess. This is the mental shift from desire to purpose, and it is the most important shift you will ever make in your practice of the science of getting rich. The second fatal mistake is allowing your faith to fluctuate based on external circumstances. This is an almost universal error, and it is completely understandable from a human perspective. When you first begin to impress your desire for wealth upon the formless substance, you do so with strong faith. You are excited, motivated, confident. You hold your mental image clearly, you feel the certainty that it is manifesting, you are broadcasting a powerful signal. And then, nothing happens. Days pass, maybe weeks, and your physical circumstances remain unchanged. Bills still arrive, your bank account is still empty. The opportunities you expected have not appeared. And slowly, insidiously, doubt begins to creep in. You start to wonder if the law really works. You start to question whether you are doing it right. You start to look for signs of manifestation, and when you don't see them, your faith begins to crumble. This is the moment when most people fail. They allow the absence of immediate physical evidence to override their understanding of the law. They forget that the physical world is always reflecting past thought patterns, not present ones. They forget that there is a lag between impressing a thought upon the formless substance and seeing the physical manifestation. They forget that their job is to maintain the transmission regardless of appearances, to hold the faith regardless of circumstances, to keep broadcasting the signal even when the receivers have not yet responded. And in this moment of doubt, the transmission cuts out. The impression they were making on the substance begins to fade. The creative process that had begun to gather momentum now loses that momentum. And if the doubt persists, if the faith is not restored, the entire process collapses and they are back where they started, or worse, because now they have evidence that it doesn't work, which makes it even harder to generate faith the next time they try. The truth is that the law always works, but it requires consistent application. Wavering faith is like turning a light switch on and off repeatedly. The light flickers, but it never stays on long enough to illuminate the room. In the same way, when your faith wavers, your transmission flickers. The pattern you are impressing upon the substance is interrupted. The creative process starts and stops, but it never completes because you never maintain the signal long enough for the manifestation to occur. This is not a failure of the law, this is a failure of application. You are not giving the process time to work. You are not maintaining the mental state necessary for creation to complete. You are allowing your attention to be captured by the physical evidence of past thought patterns, and in doing so, you are perpetuating those patterns rather than creating new ones. The solution is to understand that faith is not dependent on evidence. Faith is the evidence. Faith is the inner knowing that precedes and creates the outer manifestation. When you have true faith, you do not need to see signs of progress because you know the progress is happening in the invisible realm, and the visible realm will catch up in due time. You do not check your bank account to see if the law is working, because you know the law is working whether your bank account reflects it yet or not. You do not look for external validation, because your validation comes from your understanding of the principle, not from your observation of effects. This is the mental discipline that separates masters from amateurs. Amateurs need constant reassurance from the physical world. Masters trust the law and maintain their faith regardless of what they see. And because masters maintain their faith, their transmission remains constant and their manifestations are inevitable. The third fatal mistake is operating with a purpose that is either unclear or misaligned with the principle of increase. A vague purpose is one that lacks specificity and intensity. It is the difference between I want to be wealthy and I want to create $100,000 in the next 12 months so that I can invest in my business, provide better for my family, and contribute to causes I believe in. The first statement is a wish, the second is a purpose. The first is diffuse, unfocused, lacking in energy. The second is specific, focused, charged with intention. When your purpose is vague, your transmission is weak because the substance does not know exactly what pattern to manifest. It is like giving directions to someone by saying, "Go somewhere nice," instead of providing a specific address. The destination is unclear, so the journey never begins. But when your purpose is specific, when you know exactly what you want and why you want it, your transmission has clarity and power. The substance knows exactly what to create, and it proceeds to create it. A selfish purpose is one that is rooted in the competitive mindset, the belief that you must take from others to have for yourself, the desire to accumulate wealth for the sake of feeling superior or proving your worth. This kind of purpose creates a dissonant signal because it is out of alignment with the fundamental movement of the universe toward increase and expansion. The formless substance is not moral in the human sense. It does not judge your intentions as good or bad, but it does respond more powerfully to intentions that are aligned with its own nature, which is creative, expansive, life-affirming. When your purpose is to take, to hoard, to dominate, you are working against the grain of the universe. Your transmission is weak and distorted because you are trying to create through a principle of decrease rather than increase. You may achieve some level of wealth through such a purpose, but it will always require struggle, and it will never bring true satisfaction because it is fundamentally misaligned with the creative principle. The most powerful purpose is one that seeks wealth as a means to live more fully, to contribute more generously, to express more completely. This is the purpose of increase. It recognizes that wealth is not an end in itself, but a tool for expanding life, your life and the lives of others. When you desire wealth so that you can provide better for your family, invest in your growth, support causes you believe in, create value for others through your business or your art, when your purpose is rooted in this desire for increase, then your transmission is aligned with the fundamental creative movement of the universe. The substance responds with enthusiasm because you are asking for something that serves the greater good, something that adds to the total wealth and well-being of the world. This alignment creates a resonance, an amplification of your signal, that makes manifestation not just possible but inevitable. Now let us turn to the direct instruction that Wallace D. Wattles himself provided, the master's own words on how to unite faith and purpose into an irresistible force of creation. Wattles was not given to vague mysticism or abstract philosophy. He was a practical man who understood that people needed clear, actionable guidance, and so he distilled the entire process into a single, powerful statement that contains everything you need to know about generating motive power. He said, "It is the united action of faith and purpose which makes the impression upon substance." Let us unpack this statement, for within it lies the key to your wealth. United action means that faith and purpose must work together, simultaneously, as a single force. You cannot have one without the other and expect success. Faith without purpose is powerless belief. You might be certain that the law works, but if you have no clear intention about what you want to create, your certainty goes nowhere. Purpose without faith is frustrating struggle. You might know exactly what you want, but if you don't believe it's possible or don't trust the process, you will exhaust yourself trying to force outcomes through willpower alone. But when faith and purpose are united, when you have both the unshakable certainty that creation is happening and the clear, focused intention about what is being created, you have a force that cannot be resisted. The two energies amplify each other. Faith gives purpose confidence. Purpose gives faith direction. Together they create a transmission of such clarity and power that the formless substance must respond. Makes the impression upon substance is the key phrase. Remember, your goal is not just to think about wealth or visualize abundance. Your goal is to create an impression, a pattern, a lasting mark in the formless substance. This requires force. A light touch makes no impression. A hesitant approach makes no impression. Only sustained, focused, energized thought makes an impression. And that energy comes from the united action of faith and purpose. When you hold your mental image with absolute faith that it is real and steady purpose to possess it, you are applying the force necessary to impress that pattern into the substance. You are not just thinking, you are impressing. You are not just visualizing, you are commanding. You are not just hoping, you are creating. Wattles then provides the specific instruction for daily practice. Hold your vision with the unshakable faith that you are realizing it and the resolute purpose to realize it. This is not a one-time exercise. This is a daily discipline. Every morning, every evening, and as many times throughout the day as you can, you return to your mental image of wealth, but you do not return to it as a passive observer, hoping it will somehow manifest. You return to it as an active creator, consciously generating the faith and purpose that energize the image and transmit it into the substance. You hold the vision. This is the mental image, the clear picture of what you want to create. You hold it with unshakable faith. This is the certainty that it is already real in spiritual reality and is in the process of becoming real in physical reality. And you hold it with resolute purpose. This is the steady, unwavering determination to possess it, the will to have it, the commitment to persist until it manifests. Notice the present tense in Wattles' instruction. The faith that you are realizing it. Not that you will realize it someday in the future, but that you are realizing it right now. This is crucial. The creative process is not something that will happen later. It is happening now in this moment as you impress your thought upon the substance. The physical manifestation will come later, but the creation is occurring now. When you understand this, when you truly grasp that you are not waiting for creation to begin, but are actively engaged in creation right now, your entire relationship with the process changes. You stop feeling like a passive spectator waiting for the universe to do something. You start feeling like an active participant in an ongoing creative process. You are not hoping for wealth to appear. You are creating wealth through the proper application of mental law. And that shift in understanding generates tremendous power in your transmission. The word resolute is also important. Resolute means determined, unwavering, not easily discouraged. Your purpose must have this quality. It cannot be a casual preference or a tentative hope. It must be a firm decision, a commitment that you will maintain regardless of obstacles or delays. When your purpose is resolute, you are telling the universe and yourself that this outcome is non-negotiable. You will have it. You will persist until it manifests. You will not give up, will not be deterred, will not allow doubt or discouragement to stop you. This quality of resoluteness adds tremendous force to your transmission. It is the difference between a weak signal that can be easily overwhelmed by competing patterns and a strong signal that cuts through all interference and commands attention. When the formless substance receives a transmission characterized by unshakable faith and resolute purpose, it has no choice but to respond. The pattern is too clear, the force is too strong, the signal is too persistent to be ignored. This is the master's instruction, simple in statement but profound in application. Hold your vision with unshakable faith and resolute purpose. Do this daily, consistently, without wavering. Do not check for results. Do not look for signs. Do not allow doubt to interrupt your transmission. Simply maintain the mental state of faith and purpose, knowing that the law is operating, that the impression is being made, that the manifestation is inevitable. This is not easy. It requires discipline. It requires commitment. It requires you to maintain a state of consciousness that contradicts your physical circumstances. But this is the price of mastery. This is what separates those who create wealth from those who merely wish for it. And this is what you must do if you are serious about transforming your mental images into cold, hard cash. Now let us connect this ancient wisdom to modern scientific understanding, for the principles that Wattles taught are not merely philosophical concepts, but descriptions of actual mechanisms by which consciousness shapes reality. One of the most powerful concepts in modern physics and biology is coherence, the state in which multiple waves or oscillations align in phase, creating a unified, amplified signal. When light waves are incoherent, they are chaotic, scattered, moving in different directions with no relationship to each other. The result is weak, diffuse light that has little power. But when light waves become coherent, when they align perfectly in phase, they form a laser beam, a concentrated stream of light so powerful it can cut through steel, perform delicate surgery, or transmit information across vast distances. The difference between ordinary light and laser light is not the amount of energy. It is the coherence, the alignment, the unity of the waves. Your thoughts operate on the same principle. When your thoughts are incoherent, scattered, contradictory, mixed with doubt and fear, they create a weak, diffuse signal that has little power to influence reality. You might think about wealth one moment and worry about bills the next. You might visualize abundance in the morning and focus on lack in the evening. You might affirm prosperity while feeling anxious about money. These contradictory thoughts are like incoherent light waves. They cancel each other out, creating static and confusion rather than a clear, powerful signal. The formless substance receives a garbled transmission, an unclear pattern, and it cannot create a definite manifestation because the instructions keep changing. This is why most people's attempts at mental creation fail. They are broadcasting incoherent signals, mixing positive thoughts with negative emotions, alternating between faith and doubt, never maintaining a consistent pattern long enough for the substance to respond. But when your thoughts become coherent, when faith and purpose align, when your mental image is clear and consistent, when your emotions support rather than contradict your intentions, you create a laser beam of consciousness. All your mental energy is focused in the same direction, aligned in phase, amplified by the unity of the signal. This coherent thought wave has tremendous power to penetrate the formless substance and create a lasting impression. It is not scattered or weak. It is focused and strong. It does not dissipate into static. It maintains its integrity and force from your consciousness to the universal creative medium. And just as a laser beam can accomplish feats that ordinary light cannot, coherent thought can create manifestations that incoherent thought cannot. The difference is not in the amount of mental effort, it is in the coherence, the alignment, the unity of your consciousness. This is exactly what faith and purpose do. They bring your consciousness into a state of coherence. Faith eliminates the wavering between belief and doubt, between confidence and fear. It creates a stable carrier wave, a consistent signal that does not fluctuate. Purpose eliminates the scattering of attention across multiple desires and competing goals. It focuses all your mental energy on a single, clear outcome. When faith and purpose are united, when they work together in your consciousness, they create perfect coherence. Your thoughts are no longer chaotic and contradictory. They are aligned, focused, powerful. You are no longer broadcasting static. You are broadcasting a laser beam of creative intention, and this coherent signal has the power to cut through all resistance, to overcome all obstacles, to manifest your desire with a speed and certainty that seems miraculous to those who don't understand the mechanism. Modern neuroscience has also discovered that coherent brain states are associated with peak performance, enhanced creativity, and greater effectiveness in achieving goals. When your brain waves synchronize, when different regions of your brain work in harmony rather than in conflict, you enter states of flow where complex tasks become effortless and solutions appear spontaneously. This is the neurological equivalent of what Wattles was describing. When your thoughts are coherent, when faith and purpose unite, your entire nervous system aligns with your intention. You are not fighting yourself. You are not sabotaging your own efforts with contradictory beliefs. Your conscious and subconscious minds work together toward the same goal. Your emotions support your thoughts. Your actions align with your vision. This internal coherence creates external coherence. Circumstances begin to align, opportunities appear, resources flow toward you. Not because you are lucky, but because you are broadcasting a coherent signal that the universe can respond to clearly and powerfully. The principle of coherence also explains why sustained focus is so important. A laser beam maintains its power because the light waves remain aligned over distance. If the coherence breaks down, the beam disperses and loses its effectiveness. In the same way, your transmission of thought must remain coherent over time. You cannot generate a powerful signal for one day and then let it dissolve into incoherence the next. You must maintain the alignment of faith and purpose day after day, week after week, until the manifestation is complete. This is why Wattles emphasizes holding your vision with unshakable faith and resolute purpose. The words unshakable and resolute describe the sustained coherence required for effective creation. Your signal must not waver. Your alignment must not break down. Your focus must not scatter. Only through sustained coherence does the full power of your consciousness become available for the creation of wealth. Consider what happens in a symphony orchestra. When the musicians are not in sync, when each is playing at a slightly different tempo or in a slightly different key, the result is cacophony, noise rather than music. But when all the musicians align, when they follow the same conductor, when they play in perfect harmony, the result is a powerful, beautiful sound that moves the audience and creates an emotional impact far beyond what any single instrument could achieve. Your consciousness is like an orchestra. Your thoughts are the instruments. Faith and purpose are the conductor. When all elements align, when all thoughts harmonize around a single clear intention, the result is a transmission of such power and beauty that the universe itself responds. The formless substance is moved, impressed, compelled to create the pattern you are broadcasting. This is not metaphor. This is the actual mechanism by which consciousness shapes reality. The scientific principle of coherence thus validates what Wattles taught a century ago. Your thoughts have creative power, but only when they are coherent. Scattered, contradictory, incoherent thoughts create scattered, contradictory, incoherent results, or more often, no results at all. But coherent thoughts, aligned through faith and purpose, focused on a clear mental image, maintained with consistency and discipline, these thoughts become a force of nature, as powerful and inevitable as any physical law. When you understand this, when you recognize that the gap between your thoughts and your cash is simply a gap in coherence, you have the key to transforming your financial reality. You do not need more thoughts. You do not need different thoughts. You need coherent thoughts. You need to align your consciousness through faith and purpose, to focus your mental energy like a laser beam, to broadcast a signal so clear and powerful that the formless substance has no choice but to respond. This is the science behind the science of getting rich. This is the physics of manifestation. And this is what you must now learn to practice. Let us now make this principle concrete through illustration. Consider the story of an inventor, any inventor, but let us think particularly of someone like Thomas Edison, whose life exemplifies the principle of transmitted thought. Thousands of inventors throughout history have had ideas, a vague notion of something that could be created, a fleeting image of a device that might solve a problem, a momentary inspiration about a new technology. These ideas are thoughts, and they are the beginning of the creative process. But most of these ideas never become reality. Most inventors never succeed in bringing their visions into physical form. Why? Because they have the thought, the mental image, but they do not have the motive power to transmit that thought into manifestation. They lack either the faith that it can be done or the purpose to persist until it is done. And without both faith and purpose, the idea remains just an idea, a pattern in their mind that never impresses itself upon the formless substance strongly enough to create physical form. Edison was different. He had the same ideas that many others had. In fact, many of his inventions were based on principles that other inventors had already discovered. But Edison had something that most inventors lacked: unshakable faith and relentless purpose. He had absolute certainty that his vision could be realized. When he set out to create the electric light bulb, he did not hope it was possible. He knew it was possible. He did not doubt whether he could find the right filament material. He knew he would find it. This was not blind optimism. This was faith based on understanding. Edison understood the principle of experimentation, the law of cause and effect, the certainty that if he kept testing materials and refining designs, he would eventually find the solution. His faith was not in himself as some special genius. It was in the law of creative process itself. And because his faith was unshakable, he was able to maintain his transmission through thousands of failures, through countless setbacks, through all the evidence that suggested he should give up. But faith alone was not enough. Edison also had resolute purpose. He was not casually interested in creating a light bulb. He was absolutely determined to do it. His purpose was clear: to bring electric light to the world, to improve human life, to create something of value that would benefit millions of people. This was a purpose aligned with increase, with contribution, with the expansion of human capability. And because his purpose was so strong, so clear, so aligned with the principle of universal increase, it gave him the will to persist through every obstacle. When one filament material failed, he did not interpret this as evidence that the law wasn't working or that his vision was impossible. He simply tried another material. When one design didn't work, he refined the design. His purpose kept him focused, kept him moving forward, kept him transmitting his vision into the formless substance day after day, experiment after experiment, until finally the physical manifestation appeared. The result of this coherent mental state, this union of unshakable faith and resolute purpose, was that Edison perceived solutions that others missed. He attracted resources that others could not access. He found collaborators who were drawn to his certainty and determination. Opportunities appeared that seemed like luck, but were actually the natural response of the universe to a clear, powerful, coherent transmission. The formless substance, receiving Edison's signal day after day with perfect clarity and unwavering intensity, began to arrange circumstances, to orchestrate events, to bring into Edison's experience exactly what he needed to manifest his vision. This is not mysticism. This is the mechanical operation of mental law. When you broadcast a coherent signal of faith and purpose, the universe responds by bringing you the people, the resources, the ideas, the opportunities that align with your vision. Not because the universe is conscious in the human sense, but because this is how the creative principle operates. Now contrast Edison's approach with that of the countless inventors who failed. They had ideas, sometimes ideas just as good as Edison's, sometimes even better. But they lacked the coherent mental state that Edison maintained. They started with enthusiasm, but their faith wavered when they encountered difficulties. They had desire, but they confused it with purpose. And when the desire wasn't immediately satisfied, they gave up. They looked at their failures as evidence that their vision was impossible rather than as feedback in an ongoing creative process. They allowed doubt to interrupt their transmission. They allowed discouragement to break down their coherence. And because their signal was weak and inconsistent, because their thoughts were incoherent and contradictory, the formless substance never received a clear enough pattern to manifest their vision. Their ideas remained trapped in their minds, never impressing themselves upon the universal creative medium, never becoming physical reality. This same principle applies to wealth creation. You might have a clear vision of financial abundance. You might know exactly how much money you want to create and what you want to do with it. But if you lack the coherent mental state of faith and purpose, if you allow doubt to interrupt your transmission, if you confuse anxious desire with resolute purpose, then your vision will remain just a vision. It will never impress itself upon the formless substance with sufficient force to create manifestation. But if you approach wealth creation the way Edison approached invention, with unshakable faith that the law works, and resolute purpose to persist until your vision manifests, then you become unstoppable. You perceive opportunities that others miss. You attract resources that others cannot access. You find solutions that others overlook. And wealth flows to you not through luck or chance, but through the natural operation of mental law correctly applied. The lesson of the inventor is this: success in any creative endeavor, whether inventing a device or creating wealth, is not about having the best idea or the most talent or the luckiest circumstances. Success is about maintaining the coherent mental state of faith and purpose until the manifestation is complete. It is about broadcasting a clear, powerful, consistent signal that the formless substance can respond to. It is about aligning your consciousness like a laser beam and focusing it on your vision without wavering, without doubt, without interruption. When you do this, when you unite faith and purpose in your daily practice, when you hold your vision with the unshakable certainty that it is real and the resolute determination to possess it, you activate the same creative mechanism that allowed Edison to light the world. And that mechanism will work just as reliably for you as it did for him, because it is a law of nature, not a special gift granted to a chosen few. We have journeyed through the mechanism of transmitted thought, examined the components of motive power, identified the fatal mistakes that prevent success, and connected ancient wisdom to modern science. Now we must synthesize this understanding into a unified vision of how consciousness creates wealth. The central insight is this: the gap between thought and cash is not a mysterious void or an insurmountable barrier. It is simply the distance between incoherent consciousness and coherent consciousness, between passive imagination and active transmission, between thought alone and thought energized by faith and purpose. When you understand this, when you truly grasp that wealth is not created by thinking alone but by thought, that has been given life and direction through the proper application of mental law, you hold in your hands the key to financial transformation. Wealth creation is not a matter of luck, privilege, or external circumstances. Though these factors may influence the speed and ease of manifestation, they do not determine whether manifestation occurs. Wealth creation is a matter of consciousness. It is a matter of learning to generate and maintain the specific mental state that impresses your desire upon the formless substance with sufficient clarity and power to command manifestation. This mental state is characterized by three elements: a clear mental image of what you want to create, unshakable faith that the creative process is operating, and resolute purpose to possess what you are creating for a life of increase. When these three elements are present and unified in your consciousness, when they work together as a single coherent force, you are no longer merely thinking about wealth. You are transmitting the command that creates wealth. The power of this understanding lies in its precision. You are not being asked to hope for the best or trust in vague cosmic forces. You are being given a specific mechanism, a clear process, a definite formula. Create the image, generate the faith, focus the purpose. Maintain the coherence, transmit the signal. This is not mysticism, this is mechanics, and like any mechanical process, it works the same way every time it is properly applied. The universe is not arbitrary or capricious. It does not play favorites or withhold abundance from those who deserve it. The universe operates according to law, and the law is available to everyone who learns to apply it correctly. Your past failures do not disqualify you. Your current circumstances do not limit you. Your lack of resources does not prevent you. The only thing that matters is whether you are willing to generate and maintain the coherent mental state that creates wealth. This is the synthesis of power. Wealth exists first as a pattern in consciousness, then as an impression in the formless substance, and finally as a manifestation in physical form. The movement from one stage to the next is not random or uncertain. It is governed by precise laws. Your role is to initiate the process by creating the pattern in your consciousness, to energize the process by generating the motive power of faith and purpose, and to sustain the process by maintaining your transmission until the manifestation is complete. When you fulfill this role, when you operate the mechanism correctly, wealth is not a hope or a dream. It is an inevitable result. The law guarantees it. The universe ensures it. Your success is certain because you are working with principles that cannot fail. The transformation that awaits you is not merely financial. When you learn to consciously create wealth through the proper application of mental law, you are learning something far more profound. You are learning the fundamental creative principle by which all things come into being. You are discovering that you are not a passive victim of circumstances, but an active creator of reality. You are realizing that the power to shape your life is not external to you but inherent in your own consciousness. This realization changes everything. You stop waiting for opportunities and start creating them. You stop hoping for change and start commanding it. You stop feeling powerless and start exercising the tremendous creative power that has always been yours, but which you never knew how to use. This is the true wealth, not the money itself, but the consciousness that creates money. The understanding that you are a creative being with the capacity to shape your reality according to your will. Your mind is a broadcast tower. This is not a metaphor. This is a description of your actual function in the creative process. Every thought you think, every image you hold, every emotion you feel is a signal being broadcast into the field of the formless substance. But most people never realize this. They think their thoughts are private, internal events that have no impact beyond their own subjective experience. They do not understand that their consciousness is constantly transmitting, constantly impressing patterns upon the universal creative medium, constantly shaping the reality they will experience in the future. And because they do not understand this, they broadcast weak, inconsistent, contradictory signals, signals of doubt and fear and lack, and then they wonder why their lives reflect those same qualities. They are creating their reality, but they are doing so unconsciously, accidentally, without understanding the mechanism or taking responsibility for the results. But you now understand. You now know that your thoughts are not merely private experiences, they are creative forces. You now recognize that the quality of your transmission determines the quality of your manifestation. You now see that the difference between poverty and prosperity is not external circumstances, but internal coherence. And with this understanding comes both tremendous power and tremendous responsibility. The power is that you can create wealth deliberately, consciously, scientifically. The responsibility is that you can no longer blame external factors for your financial situation. If you are experiencing lack, it is because you are broadcasting lack. If you are struggling financially, it is because your transmission is weak or incoherent. If wealth is not flowing to you, it is because you are not impressing the pattern of wealth upon the formless substance with sufficient clarity and power. This is not judgment. This is simply the operation of law. Stop sending weak, staticky signals of hope and desire. Hope is not enough. Desire is not enough. Positive thinking is not enough. These are all improvements over negative thinking and despair, but they are still insufficient to create lasting wealth because they lack the motive power that makes thought creative. What you need is not more hope, but more faith. The unshakable certainty that the law is operating and your wealth is manifesting. What you need is not more desire, but more purpose. The resolute will to possess what you are creating for a life of increase. What you need is not more positive thoughts, but more coherent thoughts. Thoughts aligned through faith and purpose, focused on a clear mental image, maintained with unwavering consistency. When you generate this kind of transmission, when you broadcast this kind of signal, the universe must respond. The formless substance has no choice but to manifest the pattern you are impressing upon it, because that is its nature. It is time to broadcast a clear, powerful, coherent signal of faith and purpose. It is time to stop being a passive receiver of whatever circumstances come your way and start being an active transmitter of the reality you choose to create. It is time to take conscious control of your broadcast, to deliberately generate the mental state that creates wealth, to maintain that state with the discipline and commitment of a master. The universe is not ignoring you. The formless substance is not withholding abundance from you. The law is not failing to work. The only issue is that you have not been broadcasting a clear enough signal for the universe to respond to. But that changes now. That changes today. That changes in this moment. As you commit to generating and maintaining the coherent consciousness of faith and purpose, that transforms thought into cash. You are not just a thinker, you are a transmitter of reality. Your consciousness is not merely a passive observer of the world, it is an active creator of the world. Every moment you are impressing patterns upon the formless substance through the quality of your thoughts and the intensity of your emotions. The question is not whether you are creating, you are always creating. The question is whether you are creating consciously or unconsciously, deliberately or accidentally, coherently or incoherently. Until now, you may have been creating unconsciously, broadcasting whatever thoughts happen to arise in your mind, generating a chaotic mix of positive and negative signals that produced chaotic, unpredictable results. But now, you have the knowledge to create consciously. Now you understand the mechanism. Now you know how to generate the motive power that makes thought creative. And with this knowledge comes the obligation to use it. The transformation begins the moment you decide to take responsibility for your transmission. The moment you recognize that your financial situation is a reflection of your consciousness, not your circumstances. The moment you commit to generating and maintaining the coherent mental state of faith and purpose. The moment you stop broadcasting lack and start broadcasting creative intention. This is not a gradual process that takes years to show results. This is an immediate shift in consciousness that begins to produce effects the moment it occurs. The formless substance is always responsive, always ready, always waiting for a clear signal. The moment you begin to broadcast clearly and powerfully, the substance begins to respond. Circumstances begin to shift. Opportunities begin to appear. Resources begin to flow. And wealth begins to manifest. Not someday in the distant future, but now, as the natural and inevitable result of your transformed consciousness. This is the message of empowerment that Wallace D. Wattles wanted you to receive. You are not powerless. You are not limited by your past or your present. You are not dependent on external circumstances or other people's decisions. You have within you, right now, all the power you need to create wealth. That power is your consciousness. That power is your ability to think, to imagine, to believe, to intend. That power is your capacity to generate faith and purpose, to align your thoughts coherently, to broadcast a clear signal into the universal creative medium. This power has always been yours, but you have never been taught how to use it. You have been told to work hard, to save money, to be practical, all of which are important, but you have never been told the fundamental truth, that wealth is created first in consciousness and only then in physical form. Now you know. Now you understand. Now you have the key. The only question is whether you will use it. I now propose a practical challenge, a specific exercise that will allow you to experience firsthand the difference between passive thought and active transmission. This is not a theoretical exercise or a philosophical meditation. This is a practical experiment in applied consciousness designed to give you direct experience of the mechanism we have been discussing. I call it the Transmission Challenge, and I invite you to commit to it for 1 week, 7 days, that is all. 7 days of deliberately generating and maintaining the coherent mental state of faith and purpose. 7 days of consciously broadcasting a clear signal of creative intention. 7 days of operating your mind as the powerful transmission tower it truly is. If you accept this challenge and complete it with full commitment, you will never look at wealth creation the same way again. Here is the challenge. Take your primary financial goal, the specific amount of money you want to create, the specific level of wealth you want to manifest. Write it down clearly and specifically. Not, I want to be rich, but I want to create $50,000 in the next 6 months. Or I want to increase my income to $10,000 per month, or whatever your specific, definite goal is. This is your mental image, your pattern, your blueprint. Now each morning for the next 7 days, before you do anything else, you will practice the 2-step transmission process. This is not visualization in the traditional sense. This is not affirmation or positive thinking. This is the deliberate generation of the motive power that makes thought creative. Step 1. For 2 minutes, cultivate the pure feeling of faith. Close your eyes, bring your financial goal to mind. And then generate the feeling, not the thought but the feeling, of absolute certainty that this goal is already a fact in spiritual reality and is currently in the process of manifesting in physical reality. Feel the calm confidence of someone who has already succeeded. Feel the peaceful assurance of someone who knows the outcome is guaranteed. Feel the quiet certainty of someone who understands the law and trusts the process. Do not think about how it will happen or when it will happen or whether you deserve it. Simply feel the faith. Feel the unwavering conviction that it is done, that the creative process is operating, that the manifestation is inevitable. 2 minutes of pure faith, with no doubt, no questioning, no wavering, just the feeling of certainty. Step 2. For the next 2 minutes, cultivate the pure feeling of purpose. Keep your eyes closed. Keep your financial goal in mind. And now generate the feeling. Again, not the thought, but the feeling of resolute determination to possess this wealth. Feel the steady will to have it. Feel the focused intention to use it for a life of increase. Feel the purposeful energy of someone who has decided that this outcome is non-negotiable. This is not anxious desire. This is not desperate wanting. This is calm, powerful, focused will. Feel yourself claiming this wealth, taking ownership of it, asserting your right to it. Feel your purpose as a force, a directed energy, a steady pressure that is impressing your desire upon the formless substance. 2 minutes of pure purpose, with no hesitation, no doubt, no weakness, just the feeling of resolute will. The goal of this challenge is not to see immediate financial results in 7 days, though you may, and many people do. The goal is to feel the difference between passive thought and active transmission. When you practice this exercise, you will begin to notice a distinct energetic shift. Passive thought feels light, airy, insubstantial, like a daydream that floats through your mind and disappears. Active transmission feels solid, powerful, substantial, like a force being directed toward a specific target. Passive thought is just you, alone in your mind, imagining something. Active transmission is you consciously engaging the creative mechanism of the universe, impressing your desire upon the formless substance, broadcasting a signal that must be received and responded to. When you feel this difference, when you experience the power of coherent consciousness compared to scattered thought, you will understand viscerally, not just intellectually, why faith and purpose are the keys to wealth creation. After 7 days of this practice, take note of what has changed. Not just in your external circumstances, though pay attention to those as well, but in your internal state. Do you feel more confident, more purposeful, more certain that wealth is coming? Do you notice opportunities you would have missed before? Do you find yourself taking actions that align with your goal? Do you feel a shift in your relationship with money, from scarcity to abundance, from fear to confidence? These internal shifts are evidence that your transmission is becoming coherent, that your consciousness is aligning, that the creative process is beginning to operate in your life. And if you continue the practice beyond 7 days, if you make it a permanent part of your daily routine, these internal shifts will inevitably produce external results. The wealth you are claiming in consciousness will manifest in physical form, not through magic or luck, but through the reliable operation of mental law. If you're ready to stop just thinking about wealth and start transmitting the commands that create it, if you are ready to transform your mind from a passive receiver into an active broadcast tower, if you are ready to learn the complete science of getting rich as taught by the great masters of consciousness, then subscribe to the Master's Legacy. This channel is dedicated to exploring the profound teachings of the greatest minds in history, not as historical curiosities, but as practical tools for transforming your life. Every video is a deep dive into a specific principle, a specific mechanism, a specific law of consciousness that you can apply immediately to create the results you desire. We do not offer quick fixes or empty promises. We offer precision, depth, and truth. We offer the real science of mind, stripped of mysticism and superstition, presented with clarity and practical application. Subscribe now and turn your mind into a money-making machine, not through manipulation or exploitation, but through the conscious, deliberate application of the creative principle that governs all manifestation. The choice is yours. You can continue as you have been, thinking about wealth, hoping for change, wondering why your visualizations don't work. Or you can step into mastery, learn the mechanism, generate the motive power, and start transmitting the reality you choose to create. The law is waiting. The formless substance is ready. Your wealth is possible. All that remains is for you to flip the switch, to turn on the transmitter, to begin broadcasting with faith and purpose. Do it now. Do it today. Do it with the commitment and discipline of someone who understands that they are not just thinking, they are creating. And watch as the gap between your thoughts and your cash closes, as the invisible becomes visible, as the wealth you have been imagining begins to manifest in your physical reality. This is your time. This is your power. This is your wealth. Claim it.